Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tales from the Ranger's Grove. I am your teller of tales, the Ranger of the Grove himself, Russ Johnson. Our story today takes us back to the land of Tirondel, with a story written by Theodore Thomas, who also wrote the book Toothless, which I read on my podcast. But enough about reality. It's time to relax, put your feet up, get comfy, and take a journey to the land of make-believe and fantasy as we bring you the next story from Tirondel Tales.
Ah, Wanderer, it's good to see you return. How's your day fared? Has it been a day of hard-won success, or one that's been hard with fleeting success? Whatever the day, it's good to see you again. Please, hang up your cloak, grab your meal and drink, and let the stress of the day melt away with the hearth's warm fire. As you settle in and relax, let me see if I could find a tale that suits the mood. Perhaps an adventurous tale of gold and loot, or a story of love and compassion. No, today I think what suits this hour is a story of twists and turns with a measure of redemption. A story about a curse that has been found and needed to be lost, and a fighter who was lost and did not know how to be found. Pull in your chair and listen close, for today I will share with you a tale known as A Curse of Darkness.
It was raining again in Tirondel, but this wasn't the sort of rain that you could cover your head from. It was the depressing sort of rain that never really fell. Instead, it stayed suspended in the air, like a cold, overly thick mist that soaked through your clothes and clawed at your bones. There was no shielding yourself from the gloom and wet. If you were outside with the rain, you were trapped in the thick, heavy mist, and you were impossibly soaked to your core. There was one such wretch who trudged through the cold and depressing wetness. It was a human fighter, slumped and worn, slowly making his way through an empty Tirondel street. With each weighted step forward, his longsword gently clapped against his hip, and the shield on his back bore heavily upon him. He wore simple armor that had been battered from extended use, but carried no other crests or allegiances on his person. Renly Drakenhammer was thoroughly soaked through and utterly miserable. He felt like a torrential downpour would be better than the oppressive, inescapable miasma of wetness. While a good downpour of rain had some life to it, this depressive rain felt like it sapped the life and heat from his body, leaving the fighter with unrelenting cold and emptiness. He trudged through the muddy streets of Tirondel, pressing his feet forward. He had one objective in mind. He could not think beyond this singular focus. Rounding the corner, his foot slipped, and he caught himself before slamming into the muddy road. Standing upright, Renly slicked his hair back with a dirty gloved hand and wondered if falling in the mud could make him look any worse than he already did. Then he saw it, just ahead, his sole objective. Shining like a dim beacon of reprieve in the misty misery was the Sword and Stave, the haven of Tirondel, a tavern that was home to the distraught and the revelrous. For the first time in a long time, Renly managed a slight curve of his lip and trudged onward to hope. The door creaked open, and warmth poured out from the entryway. The great hearth of the Sword and Stave burned with a bright, welcoming fire, greeting the lowly fighter as he crossed the tavern's threshold. Stepping out of the cold, depressing muck and into the gentle warmth of the tavern brought a small measure of relief to Renly, and he finally managed to breathe.
"Renly, is that you?"
The fighter looked for the voice and saw the taverner wave him over. Renly wiped his dirty face with a dirty hand and smiled. He couldn't remember the last time he smiled like this. He waved back as he approached the bar.
Hey, Temple. How's the tavern?
Kemple, a large dragonborn with dark gold scales and piercing eyes, made a simple sweeping motion that invited Renly to see the whole tavern.
We're still standing. It's good to see you're doing the same.
Renly grunted as he dropped onto a bar stool.
I'm not sure I call this standing, but it's good to see you all the same, old friend.
Kemple grabbed a mug and began cleaning it with a rag.
So, what brings you into my fine establishment this misty evening?
I just need a warm fire and a good drink, friend. Maybe even a warm bed, if you can spare it.
Kemple continued to clean his mug, eyeing Renly. The taverner was a veteran of many hard-won battles and had a natural composure that indicated as much. His gaze saw through the grime and muck and brought a new weight upon Renly's conscience. The fighter fidgeted under the heavy gaze of the dragonborn.
Maybe I don't need that bed. That's okay, Kemple, it's okay. Just a drink would be fine.
Kemple continued to clean the mug, his gaze unwavering.
You could put it on my tab, old friend. You know I'm good for it.
Kemple put the mug and rag away, then placed both hands on the bar.
You're good for it, eh?
Yeah, come on, man. I mean, dragon. It's been a rough, tough season, and I've had a string of bad luck. But things are going to turn around, and I'll get this back to you, I promise.
What happened this time?
Kemple's voice was cool and even.
That was the rogue's fault, I swear. The horned bastard was supposed to scout ahead, let us know where the guards would be. Instead, you know what he does? He backs out at the last minute, crying about some damned dragon sight. We had to go in blind because of him, and had no chance of getting that loot.
Remind me what happened the last time you came through my tavern doors asking for a drink?
Oh, that was bad divination. The wyvern was an acid spitter, not a fire breather. We almost had it too, until it took out our healer, and then we had to use a teleporting scroll before we lost the whole party.
And the time before that?
Oh, gods. The damn barbarian. He went full rage too early. Sure, he managed to take out one troll, but his rage was spent when the other three showed up. I had to get resurrected due to that fiasco, and they took the price of that resurrection scroll right out of my pay.
And the time before that?
Fire in his balls, Temple. I didn't come here to relive my crappy life. I just wanted a warm fire and a drink. Is that too much to ask of an old friend?
A muffled sound came from behind the bar. Kemple glanced down and muttered something under his breath.
Excuse me?
Renly was perplexed by Kemple's shift in tone. The taverner recovered his professional bearing and returned his attention to Renly.
First, don't bring Fyringe's balls into this. There are still some worshippers of the old fire god, and they would likely start a fight with you over such expletives. Second, I like you, Renly, but this tavern doesn't remain standing on charity. I've given you more chances than most because I like you, but all tabs have their limits, and it's time for you to pay yours.
Kemple, please, help me out. I'm at the end of my rope. Just this once. I swear I'll get you after the next job.
How many times do you think I've heard that, Renly?
Please, Kemple, don't do this to me. Not tonight.
The taverner pushed himself away from the bar, creating distance from the fighter. He took in a deep breath and looked around, as if perusing unseen choices available to him. Another muffled sound came from below the bar, and Kemple's mouth turned into a snarl. Then his eyes lit up and he returned to Renly.
You call me your friend, Renly, yet are you being a friend to me?
The Dragonborn pointed.
Look here. And there.
The fighter surveyed the tavern walls that Kempel pointed to. All were decorated with banners, shields, weapons, and skulls.
Are these the weapons and skulls of patrons who couldn't pay their tabs?
Kempel laughed.
No, Renly. Some are from heroes who perished doing what they love. Long-forgotten legends donated other items. Some are the skulls of those of heroes. Others are trophies of fallen vagabonds and villains. But you see that spot there? There's a skull missing from that spot.
Renly hummed a curious acknowledgement.
That spot was set aside for a special, legendary skull. It was promised to me by another friend who was not unlike you.
Kempel chuckled wistfully.
It was one of the few times I was actually fooled. You see, this legendary skull was cursed, but not in a way I or anyone else expected.
Hold on. You had a cursed skull in this tavern? Is anything else in here cursed?
Kempel smiled as he turned his attention to a gnome artificer who had approached the bar in order to drink. While Kempel served the gnome, Renly heard the muffled sounds again from behind the bar. The fighter tried to lean over the bar and get a glimpse of where the muffled sounds were coming from.
The simple answer is no,
the taverner said, interrupting Renly's casual inspection of the noise. Kempel prepared 2 more mugs for incoming patrons.
Maybe a few of these things had curses, but their threats have long been neutralized.
Is that why the cursed skull is missing from the wall? Because you couldn't get rid of its threat?
Kempel filled the 2 mugs with ale.
This cursed skull isn't a threat, but it's an annoyance that I'd rather not deal with.
Another muffled noise from below the bar. Kempel's face was flat, annoyed.
Is the skull making those noises?
Renly asked.
Tonight is your lucky night, Renly.
Kempel continued as he served the 2 mugs of ale.
You see, typically, patrons who cannot pay their tab need to be removed from the tavern. However, in special circumstances like tonight, I provide a special quest that will wipe your tab clean.
Renly leaned in close.
I'm listening.
Kempel pocketed the bitch from the paying patrons and gave his full attention to Renly.
Here's your quest. Remove the cursed skull from my tavern. You do that, and consider your tab paid in full.
Done.
Kempel laughed.
That was quick. Are you sure you want to do this?
I need a win, Kempel. This is something quick, simple, and if it will get me back into your good graces, I am in.
This is part of your problem, Renly. You rush into things without finding out all the details.
What more do I need to know? Are you not telling me something that I need to know?
Nope. There's not much more I can tell you. Keep that cursed skull well away from my tavern and consider your tab paid.
Kempel, I swear, old friend, you will never, ever see that skull again.
We'll see.
The taverner ducked below the bar, then stood and placed a box on the bar. He opened the box and carefully withdrew a leather sack. He gently placed the leather sack on the bar, opened it, and pushed the sack down. A bleached white human skull was revealed from within the sack. At first glance, there was nothing special about the skull. Yet, as Renly continued to inspect the head, he noticed that the mouth seemed to curve unnaturally into a devilish grin. Also, the eyes were black, like a pair of bottomless caverns.
Strange.
Be gentle with it,
Kempel cautioned.
It can get rather volatile if you're not careful.
I thought you said this thing wasn't a threat.
Kempel shrugged.
Feel free to take the leather sack for carrying it. You're doing me a service by taking this off my hands.
Renly scooped the skull up into the leather sack and smiled.
Consider it done, friend. and thank you for this.
Kemple waved the fighter farewell as he turned to the next patron.
Don't thank me too soon. Good luck, Renly.
Renly smiled wide as he left the Sword and Stave. It had been a while since he had taken on a solo quest, and maybe this was what he needed. Too long he'd been relying on teammates and others. It was about time he did something for himself, by himself. And what better way to start than with something easy? Outside, the rain had cleared, and stars shone in the sky. Renly was sure even the moon spared him a smile with this change toward good fortune. The fighter was tempted to just drop the sack outside the tavern, but Renly knew that was not what Kemple was asking. So, he settled on walking to the docks and tossing the sack into the twin rivers. He happily slung the leather sack over his shoulder and took the first steps on his new adventure.
You ignominious buffoon! You were told to be gentle.
Renly froze mid-step. Cautiously, he scanned his surroundings. The voice was rough, old, and unfamiliar, its source nowhere to be seen.
Well, get on with it, you fool! Or do you intend to stand here all night looking like a mud-stricken maniac?
Who said that?
Renly called out to the dark streets.
Who are you?
Who am I? Who am I? I am the embodiment of evil, the phantom of your fears, the harbinger of your doom. Hear me, for I am your curse to behold. Know my name, and quake in fear.
What's your name?
Ryan.
Renly paused, unsure what to do next.
That's it?
I sense the fear and awe in your voice, the hesitation induced by mind-filling dread. You shall succumb your will to me.
The fighter raised a quizzical eyebrow to the darkness. Fear was the last thing he was feeling right now.
Where are you?
You know exactly where I am.
Renly unslung the leather sack and examined it at arm's length.
Yes, it is I. Release me from this tan-hide confinement and behold my magnificent darkness.
The streets were empty and dark. Renly, so far as he could tell, was alone.
Kemple said this was one of the few times he was fooled. So, ha-ha, you fooled me. This has been a funny trick, but I'll be going now.
Yes, you will. Renly?
The fighter stopped mid-movement again and returned the leather sack to arm's length.
Wait, how do you know my name?
I know a great many things. Renly?
Why are you saying my name like that?
Because anyone with such a name is obviously below the stature of my greatness.
Excuse me?
Your parents must have given you this name because you were noisy and small. Yet you have no bird-like features, no wings or feathers, not even a bird-like nose. How much of a disappointment you have been to your lowly parents.
You calcified little turd. You know what? We're going to the docks, and I'm making sure to put some extra rocks in this sack before I toss you in the river.
Yes, Renly, that is exactly what you will do.
That's right. That is what I'm going to do.
The fighter began to march toward the docks.
To the docks, Renly. I command you.
Renly stopped, anger grinding like a slow-turning millstone.
You are my vessel for spreading evil and darkness across the land. Go forth, my vessel, and perform my commands.
You know what? On second thought, the docks are too good for you.
Renly slung the leather sack roughly over his shoulder and changed his direction of travel.
I've got a better place for you.
Yes, give in to the darkness that is my will.
I'm not giving in to anything. I'm choosing my own way.
And that is the way I am choosing for you.
Oh, yeah? Where are you telling me to go now?
You will see soon enough.
I'll see? Really?
Renly rounded the corner and strode down a narrow back alley.
Yeah, right. You're stalling.
Hey there.
A harsh voice called out from behind.
There's a toll for walking these streets.
The fighter stopped and sighed in exasperation.
Not a word, you damn skull.
Did you hear me?
The harsh voice called out. Renly turned to face the voice and immediately recognized who it belonged to. He quickly put a faux smile on his face.
Ganji, you dark elf. What are you doing out here this fine night?
Renly.
Ganji replied with a cruel smile.
Calypso sends her regards and awaits payment for that sword.
I told you I don't have the sword anymore. It was lost during that troll incident.
And yet you never finished paying for it.
Ganji fanned his fingers, showing empty palms.
It matters not what happened to the sword. You still need to pay your debt.
Renly glanced over his shoulder. He saw two thugs, a human and a hobgoblin, approaching. Looking back toward Ganji, two more thugs approached, another dark elf and a dwarf. The fighter did not like the odds and thought fast.
Well, you're in luck. I got my payment right here.
Really?
Ganji smiled doubtfully. Renly held out the leather sack.
Yeah, it's right here.
Ganji eyed the leather sack curiously.
He's lying!
Everyone paused with that exclamation. Renly's smile faltered, and he swallowed hard.
The fake birdman is lying and has no intention of paying you, or your nymph whore of the sea.
Ganji's smile faltered.
Is your bag talking?
Renly shrugged sheepishly.
The birdman also says your mother screams at a wounded gorilla when he rides her massive hindquarters.
Ganji frowned. Renly quickly shook his head in defiance of the proclamation announced from the leather sack that he held.
Did you know he calls your mother's hindquarters a fortnight? It's because it takes the birdman a fortnight to travel her massive girth.
Renly shook his head vigorously.
No. I never said any such thing.
Ganji's glare was venom.
Kill him.
Renly took the initiative. He spun about, swinging his leather sack and smashing the hobgoblin in the head. The hobgoblin dropped to the ground as the human thug attacked, swinging a club. The fighter dropped the leather sack, sidestepped, and grabbed the human thug's club arm. Continuing with his movement, Renly stepped behind, forcing the thug to be a shield from the other thugs. The human thug's arm was painfully twisted behind his back, causing him to drop his weapon and cry out, right before being hit with an arcane bolt fired by the dark elf woman behind Ganji. Ganji didn't move, but the dwarf charged forward, brandishing a blunt mace. With incredible deftness, the dwarf swept the human thug's legs, causing his fellow thug to fall to the ground and out of Renly's grasp. The dwarf then stepped on the fallen thug and leapt, raising the mace overhead with both hands. Renly ducked and rolled to the side, laughing to himself that this may have been the first time he needed to duck low from a dwarf's attack. He cut his laugh short when he heard the leather sack laughing too.
The darkness belongs to me, and soon all of you will belong to the darkness.
Oh, shut up.
Renly yelled at the leather sack sitting next to the unconscious hobgoblin. An arcane bolt hit Renly on the shield that was strapped to his back, causing him to stumble slightly forward. The dwarf rushed at the fighter again, swinging his mace with another attack. Renly rolled again, narrowly dodging the dwarf's attack. He continued to roll and rolled over the human thug, eliciting more cries of pain from the fallen thug. The fighter grabbed the thug's dropped club and pressed his attack against the dwarf. The two fighters clashed in the muddy alley, parrying and dodging fierce blows. Another arcane bolt flew past Renly's head, and he spared a glance for the two dark elves. While the magic user had her hands up, ready for another strike, Ganji remained motionless, hands clasped behind his back, observing the fight. Suddenly, Renly's feet were swept from underneath, and he experienced a brief moment of weightlessness. In that moment, Renly realized the dwarf had tripped him in the same manner that caused the human thug to fall. The moment was over before he could curse himself for falling. Renly hit the ground hard, but rolled quickly to his stomach. With his mace, the dwarf gave the human fighter 2 strong hits on the shield strapped to his back before delivering a kick to the downed fighter. Renly grabbed the dwarf's foot and rolled. The dwarf fell awkwardly, and Renly heard a snap, followed by the dwarf yelling in pain. The human fighter then rolled over the dwarf as an arcane bolt flew past him. Without waiting for the next attack, Renly sprang up from the ground and charged for the magic user. Behind him, he could hear maniacal laughter from the leather sack. With a rapid flourish, the fighter dodged another arcane bolt as he spun, drew his longsword, and grabbed the magic user by the neck. With one hand on the dark elf's neck and his sword tip pressing against her belly, Renly positioned himself so the magic user was between him and Ganji. Ganji and Renly locked eyes. Renly was breathing hard from the exertion of the fight, but he held the magic user firmly in his grasp. Ganji remained placid, and after a moment of regard, walked with a cool, even stride to the leather sack. The sack was quiet now, and Ganji eyed the thing curiously before crouching low and opening it. The dark elf reached in and withdrew the evil skull, examining it with an air of curiosity and suspicion. He tilted the skull back and forth and peered into its dark, bottomless eyes. Frowning, Ganji placed the skull back in its leather sack.
You can keep your trinket, Renly.
The dark elf waved dismissively to the fighter.
But let this be a lesson to you. Pay your debts. Next time, we won't go so easily on you.
Renly grunted acknowledgement as he released his grip on the magic user's neck. The dark elf quickly retreated to Ganji's side, coughing and holding her neck. Ganji nodded his farewell, and together the two dark elves exited the alley, leaving Renly with two moaning thugs and an unconscious hobgoblin. Still breathing hard from the exertion, Renly sheathed his longsword and angrily scooped up the leather sack as he left the alley in the direction opposite of Ganji.
I am done with you,
Renly exclaimed as he quickly stomped through the streets.
The docks are close enough, and the best place to make sure that I never see you again.
Laughter came from the leather sack.
You will never be done with me, Renly, for you and I are bound to death.
Keep laughing, you dung skull.
Renly rounded a corner, taking a shortcut through Ridgeward.
Keep laughing.
The skull kept laughing.
Your thoughts are becoming my thoughts. Succumb to the darkness.
Renly looked to the starry sky.
Campo, you are a brass bastard.
Yes,
The skull agreed.
yes, he is. But that brass bastard will not be rid of me so easily. Once the darkness consumes you, I will return to haunt that dragonkin once more.
It was Renly's turn to laugh as he walked down the first pier in the docks.
Ha ha. Pretty soon the only thing you will be hunting are the fishes in the Twin Rivers.
Yes, yes, do your worst, failed birdman. Give in to your depravity.
Renly reached the end of the pier.
Give in to this, skull.
My name is Ryan.
I don't care.
Renly began spinning the sack in a circle, gathering momentum for a distance throw.
Know my name and quake in fear.
Renly released the leather sack and watched it sail through the sky. He heard the skull continue to laugh maniacally until it splashed into the water. The fighter smiled and clapped his hands clean.
Good riddance, you filthy skull. My tab is clean.
Renly turned to leave the pier.
Boo!
Ah!
Renly screamed. There, at eye level, sitting on a pier support, was the skull grinning like the devil Atreides. The skull was again laughing as it declared,
I am Ryan. Quake in fear before me, pitiful birdman.
What the? How the?
Renly searched wildly for an explanation regarding the skull's sudden reappearance.
Succumb to the dark.
Renly punched the skull off the support and watched it fall back into the water. A few bubbles rose as the white skull disappeared into the dark waters below. The moon shone brightly over the gentle swaying waters of the Twin Rivers. The fighter waited a moment longer to ensure the skull wouldn't come back up.
Oh, I should have remembered to use rocks to sink that thing.
Renly turned to leave the pier again.
Rocks will not stop my dark omnipotence.
Rahu on Kali!
Renly screamed back. The skull was on another pier support, its grin unwavering.
Yes, curse the incestuous night gods, for I, Ryan, will...
Renly grabbed the skull and threw it hard into the water. The dark water plumed and splashed from the skull's impact, but Renly did not wait to see if it would sink. The fighter ran away from the pier and escaped the docks.
What in the gods' nethers has Campbell gotten me into?
Renly turned a corner and another, as if trying to evade a vicious pursuer.
There's no way my tab was worth this much.
You cannot place a price tag on darkness, for it is omnipresent.
Renly ran harder. He refused to look back.
You cannot outrun the darkness, flightless birdman. I will follow you to your death.
Renly stopped to turn and face the skull.
You know what?
He saw it sitting on the window ledge of a crooked little shop. The shop had no name, only a symbol of a spiraling fire etched above the door. The fighter stomped over to the skull.
You might think you're so dark and menacing, but you're not.
Denial is the first step in your acceptance of my will.
All right, look. I don't know what in the eight hells is going on, but I do know that I will end you.
Your only reprieve from my dark majesty is your death, wretched birdman.
Seriously? Birdman? Is that the best insult you can come up with?
The
skull made a noise, as if it were trying to clear the throat it did not have. Then it laughed in its maniacal laughter.
You're not getting out of this so easily. You want to make fun of names? Fine. Let's make fun of Ryan. What kind of name is Ryan anyways?
It is the name of darkness incarnate, the name of power beyond your mortal comprehension.
It is a stupid name.
The skull made a choking noise.
How dare you, mortal fool! The powers of darkness will descend upon you for such insolence.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm waiting.
Renly stepped back and extended his arms as he raised his voice to the sky.
Come on, dark powers. Come, descend upon me.
The skull laughed wickedly.
Behold, your world is bathed in night.
That's because it is night, you numbskull.
My name is Ryan, and it will continue to be night until a time of my choosing.
Well, that is a real load of golden dragon cack. Wait, hold on. Let me guess. The time of your choosing will be at about,
Renly examined the height of the moon.
5 hours? Maybe 4.
Yes, your mind is becoming my mind. Your thoughts are becoming...
Oh, stop, you incessant chunk of bone. That had nothing to do with you taking over my mind.
The darkness consumes you.
Renly grabbed the skull and threw it into a large rock that was sticking out of the ground. The rock chipped on impact, and the skull rolled until it righted itself on the ground, facing the fighter.
I am an indestructible force of darkness. Your feeble mortal attempts pale in comparison to the magnificence of my powers.
Silvet's holes. Where's a thief when I need one?
The fighter searched his surroundings, looking for the answer to his question.
Become one with the darkness, flightless birdman. Succumb to the evil.
Renly kicked the skull down the narrow road, cutting off whatever else it had to say. As he turned his back to the rolling skull, the fighter looked to the crooked little shop and realized he was facing a person clothed in black who was trying to break into the shop with a dagger. The thief in black stopped their attempted burglary and stared back at Renly.
Really? Really? I'm right here, begging for you to steal from me, but no! You've got to go break into some shop and steal from whoever is in there.
The thief quit working the lock of the shop door and turned to face Renly, dagger in hand, ready for a fight.
Silvet, you are a thieving whore.
Renly yelled to the sky.
You hear me? You sneaking feline god of thieves. You are the whoriest whore of whores.
No one disrespects my god,
the thief hissed.
And yet, the birdman did just that, said the skull.
Rahu bending Kali.
Renly yelled.
What other god is here right now? Because whichever god is here, I curse you too.
You're gonna pay for your insolence.
The thief charged at the fighter. Renly yelled in frustration as the skull laughed. The thief was quick, but the fighter was quicker and easily dodged the attack. Skirting around the thief, Renly quickly scanned his surroundings and found the skull sitting on the ground, grinning at him. He ducked and rolled away from another attack and grabbed the skull before returning to his feet.
Here, take the damn thing,
Renly said, holding the skull out to the thief.
Only blood will pay for your impudence.
The thief lunged for another attack. The skull laughed as the thief missed his target again.
This one clothed in black couldn't hit Sylvet's backside, even if his nose was buried in it.
The thief cried out in rage at the insult and lunged for another attack. Renly stepped to the side and tripped the thief mid-lunge, letting the lithe man in black crumple and slide across the muddy road. Before the thief could recover, the fighter rushed over and slammed the skull into the thief's head. The thief remained on the ground. Renly plopped down beside the unconscious thief on the muddy road and looked at the grinning skull in his hands.
Good, good, my agent of darkness.
What in the 8 hells are you?
I am the harbinger of your doom, the pinnacle of...
Stop. I'm not listening to any more of that wyvern crap again.
Renly peered into the dark, eyeless sockets of the skull.
How can you see without eyes?
How can you think without a brain?
The skull retorted.
Some things in this world are beyond your diminutive comprehension.
Renly flipped the skull over to examine its underside.
How do you keep coming back?
I am a maligned magnificence, omniscient and powerful. Nothing will prevent me from my great and dark purpose.
Kemple said you were cursed.
The fighter turned the skull back over to look at it directly.
He said your curse was not a threat, but an annoyance.
Kemple is a pyrite-scaled lizard who is incapable of brewing anything better than his own piss for ale. He is a conniving, cheating, perfunctory lizard who wallows in his excremental slime.
Renly laughed.
Perfunctory? Really?
Your laugh sounds like a drowning gnome who is in labor.
The skull laughed wickedly.
Ha! Your laugh? It sounds like a feeble grandmother choking on her asthmatic breath.
Oh, you think you can do better than me?
Renly let out a boisterously wicked laugh. The skull laughed wickedly in return. Renly let out another wicked laugh, which elicited a wicked laugh from the skull. Together they laughed and laughed again into the night sky.
You have potential,
the skull eventually said.
With time, you will learn how to laugh.
Renly held out the skull in mocking surprise.
Did I just hear a compliment coming from that witted mouth of yours?
No, it is merely an acknowledgement of my ability to teach you proper laughter.
Renly chuckled and shook his head. A door creaked open, and the fighter and skull looked over to see a small old woman wearing a hand-woven shawl standing at the door of her crooked little shop. She looked sternly at the two and placed a finger over her lips, indicating the need to be quiet.
I apologize, ma'am.
Renly stood in acknowledgement.
We'll quiet down.
The old woman gave the fighter a knowing smile, then closed the door of her shop. Renly looked down at the unconscious thief.
So, what should we do about this one?
We should chop him up into 100 little pieces and insert those pieces into all the jelly tarts in the bakeries of Tirondel.
By the night gods, Rahu and Kali, what is wrong with you?
The skull laughed.
I am evil incarnate.
Yeah.
Renly set the skull on the ground and began to search the thief for loot.
I know what you are, you damn blockhead.
My name is Ryan.
All right, let's get something straight, skull.
Renly pocketed a coin pouch and pulled out a small coil of rope from the thief's belt.
I will start to call you Ryan when you start to call me Renly.
The skull grumbled obstinately as Renly began to tie up the thief.
Perhaps this is a thing I could consider,
Ryan eventually muttered. Renly ensured the restraints were tight, then aimlessly threw the thief's dagger.
Good.
The fighter scooped up the skull and walked away from the thief.
So now I'm cursed with you, right?
The skull laughed.
Stop. You don't have to laugh at everything.
The skull awkwardly stopped laughing.
So, how does this curse work exactly?
Well, it's quite complicated, really. The maleficent forces of darkness do not work within the bounds of simplicity.
Why can't you just provide a simple, straightforward answer?
It is your ignoble abilities of understanding that render my answers complex and undecipherable.
Okay, let's try a different angle. How long have you had Kemple under your curse?
That elusive drunkard of a lizard has evaded my influence for far too long.
Oh, really? And how?
By passing my curse on to the patrons who do not pay their tab. It is a despicable and humiliating waste of my dark powers.
So, wait. I'm not the first? How did the others get rid of you?
I will never tell you, Birdman.
Watch it, Skullface.
Ryan grumbled with contempt. Renly crested a hill and saw the sun begin to rise over Tirondel's horizon. Deep purples in the sky transitioned through hues of red and orange, which shone over the gray morning mist. There was a freshness in the new day's air that Renly breathed in deeply.
Kemple is a good person.
Renly spoke aloud.
Kemple is the antithesis of evil, the arch-enemy of darkness, the nemesis to my existence.
Hey, instead of blaming Kemple for this, what do you say we try working together?
Work together?
Ryan's bony features seemed to shift slightly.
Your incompetent rambling is incomprehensible to my greatness.
Look, if we're stuck with each other, we might as well make the most of it.
Yes, well, we could make the most of my evil ways.
Do your ways have to be evil?
Renly asked.
Ryan
stammered.
What else could I possibly be, if not evil?
Renly smiled as he looked to the rising sun.
I don't know, but I think it's time that we find out.
Welcome back, and thank you for listening to A Curse of Darkness. You know, it's always a really cool experience for me when I get to include the author in the narration, because the voice of Renly was voiced by Theodore Thomas. And you might also have recognized the voice of Ganji in that as Chris Tompkins, the author of Blackstone, as well as one of the other Tirondel Tales, The Frog Heist. And now, the question is, do you have a story buried deep inside of you? Something you think might fit well into the world of Tirondel, but you're maybe a little bit hesitant to hash it out because you don't fancy yourself a writer. Well, this could be your chance. If you're enjoying the content of the Rangers Grove podcast, I encourage you to leave us a comment, a like, a share, a follow. Just click all the buttons because it really will mean a lot. And if you'd like to learn more about Theodore Thomas, you will find all of his relevant information in the show notes. Thank you again, everybody, and safe travels.